The Flash, issue 9, legacy number 809, Cy Spurrier writing with Ramon Perez and Vasco Georgiev on the art.
There we go.
So I quit this with the annual
Mm-hmm.
because I read like half of that annual and then just couldn't do it anymore. It was pummeling me. So Matt, unfortunately, is flying solo on Flash
Yeah.
now.
This is a little bit back more in focus because this issue mainly focuses on Barry being prodded on by the Crown of Thorns, and you find out that this crown is basically millions of other versions of anti-Flashes boiled down into essentially everything the Flashes fear, right? So they say that the main three personalities that pop up in this crown are Thawne, right? Reverse Flash, Hunter Zolomon, who is Zoom, and then Jay Garrick's Anti-Flash, who I wasn't even I was aware he existed, but I didn't realize it was a big deal. Is his Reverse Flash was called the Rival, right? And so there are these three distinct personalities that make up the main crown of Thawns, and they're essentially telling Barry that he's not good enough, and they're giving him all the negative thoughts that he won't be there in time. This is all worthless. But because Barry's a Flash, he keeps pushing on, right? So there's this really, like, when I say stunning, it's not exactly like the line work is fine. It's a little bit messy, but it's one of those Flash pages where it's almost a controlled chaos. And it's, it's got Barry running across, so there's the multiple versions of him, but there's the one Thawne just like repeated over and over, and we're seeing kind of Barry's origin play out with his mom. And it's almost as if he's running from his past. And Thawne reminds him, or the crown reminds him, that all things end. Barry keeps persisting because he knows that, Flashes don't quit. And they try to make him attack people, but it's not working. But he ends up coming up on Iris and Linda with a knife, and he doesn't understand why he has the knife. So it's almost like little by little, the faster he runs, the further he runs, the more they get into him.
So they're in his head,
and
like
yes,
okay,
yes.
all right.
So they're in his head, but it's almost as if he's just perceiving them as negative thoughts and whatnot, right? To us, the reader, though, we're seeing everything play out. Like when the Thawne's talking, we're seeing the bubble come from them and stuff. So Barry finally runs himself out, but announces, like he's like, you don't rule me, when he brings up Iris, because Iris is there with Linda at this park with the baby, with Wade. And it's that at that moment Pilgrim comes through, and he's trying to get him and Pied Piper are there from I forget the name of their the time cops essentially, and they're there to get Wade, and Barry starts struggling, and you see behind Barry is this dark shadowy figure, and right then and there, Barry sees Pied Piper, and he tells him to play the note. And when he does, come to find out, this dark, shadowy figure behind Barry is Abracadabra. And Abracadabra has been doing his subtle, advanced, science magic to make Linda feel the way that she was. Like, she's disconnected from Wally. She's overwhelmed with the baby and all this other stuff. It's all been part of the plan to isolate Wally. So when she sees Kadabra there, she runs over and KOs him with one punch. And Pilgrim comes up to her and is like, hey, I know this is not going to be easy for you, but I need to take the baby. And they fight and argue. And eventually Pilgrim gets Wade because they believe that that's it. But Barry starts having a freak out where he's realized for a minute that this is the Crown of Thorns and that they have no power over him. So it's when they try to take full control of him. He goes, I knew this for a minute because you Reverse Flashes love anything, the You guys, more than anything, you guys love to monologue. So this was just to keep him going until Barry could figure out exactly what was going on. And when Kadabra was revealed, that was the enough space that he needed to get this. So he essentially banishes them from his head with an embrace of Iris. While all of this is going on, Wally is still running around, and he's in the garden, and he keeps trying to space out the statues, but one statue keeps turning around. And do you want to take a guess on which statue that is?
In the garden?
In the garden, yeah. There's one that he keeps trying to turn away from him and isolate himself from, but there's one that won't let him.
And just remind me,
Yes.
the statues in the garden, right? None of those are also people who are still out and about alive, right? It's all people.
No, they are. They're people that he knows. All right. So Linda's
Okay.
there, Barry's there, the kids.
Okay, well, I mean,
his
Linda would be the
friends.
first guess, I suppose, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, because sometimes there's no romance like a bromance, right? So it's Nightwing.
Oh, he can't turn away from Dick.
No, he cannot. So, well, Dick can't turn away from Wally.
The Dick has eyes. It watches you wherever you go.
And Wally starts getting frustrated because, he wants, he needs that so he can, almost ascend to a higher train. And as he approaches that statue, he materializes in front of Nightwing on top of Titan's Tower. And he's like, hey, man, we're in bad shape. And he's talking about, the speedsters are disappearing and they're backed up against the wall. We really need you. You're my friend. Where have you been? And Wally comes up to him and is like, look, I can turn the other statues, but I can't. Why? I don't even know who you are. And so whatever's going on is starting to erase these big figures to Wally. But it's this conversation with Nightwing that kind of shocks him out of it. And he reminds Wally that, as you once told me, that you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. You've been doing everything fantastic. You're a great father. You're a great husband. You're my best friend. And I'm begging you, please, people are all that we have, right? It's our relationships that define us. And that coming from Dick Grayson, I think, is a real heavy line, because one of my favorite things I think that Jeff Johns has ever said about Dick Grayson was that he's not just the heart and soul of the DCU, right? He's kind of the cornerstone that it's all built on because of his relationships, right? And it's not just the Bat family and the Titans, but he has a mentor-mentee relationship with Superman, but also Superman's son, right? So it's the fact that it's these relationships that Dick holds so close. That's the thing that's almost snaps Wally out. And then he says, he looks away. Wally looks away wistfully and is like, well, I guess this is goodbye then. It's been an honor. And Grayson goes, you know what? I know I'll see you again. Count on it. And so that's the last we see of Wally here. So it's a bit ominous. Story ends with Jay, Wally's son, when Pilgrim takes Wade and reveals that he is in fact Wade to Jay, and that the villains have also tried to poison his mind. That's why he's been freezing the speedsters, because he knew it was the wrong thing to do, right? Because deep down, he's also, this member in Legacy, and he could not do it. And he goes, we're built different. And as he's talking with this, someone fires a rocket at Barry, because now he's stopped just enough to address everybody at the park. And he looks around and is like, good getting on me that you fired this rocket, and it stuck in kind of my wake. And he turns around and it's like this mech with a bat on it, but it's not quite any Batman mech that I'm familiar with. And Barry goes, Batman. And the voice from inside says, face to face it is. So I'm wondering if this is a Waller thing, right? That Waller's gotten a hold of some of the failsafe or whatever, because it's not quite fail-safe in look. It's this big, bulky kind of mech. And it's vaguely familiar, but I can't figure out why. So if you guys know, hit me up on the socials and help me remind, because I've looked around and I can't figure out why it looks that familiar. So not only is Barry fighting, you know, he's done with the Crown of Thorns and all of that type of stuff, but he has Waller up against his back, all while Wally is trying to figure out stuff with the Archangels and why exactly has he been taken off the board. So still a lot of story. The art's a little bit choppy towards the back. I think it gets to Georgiev. It looks a lot better than the Perez stuff. But what's great about the Perez stuff is it's almost a controlled chaos. Especially when we get the pages of Flash running around with the Crown of Thorns in his head. It's a bit cartoony in places. But yeah. Also, Jay tries to, he's able to use his Speed Force powers in order to get through to some of those spiders up with the time cops. And Jay's like, or not Jay, Wade's like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. What is going on? So I think the more that Jay hangs out in this, you know, time point place, the more he's learning how exactly he's different from the speedsters, which is nice. It's kind of giving him his own identity that's not just a son of the Flash. But yeah, it's more solid than it has been. I feel like the story is a little bit more cohesive. But yeah, I still just need to know. I'm tired of reading Archangels. Because every time I want to read it, I want to read it as Archangels. And I have to remind myself that it's not. But whoever these Archangels are, it's a much bigger, you know, a much bigger thing than I think we're expecting. So I think there's some timey-wimey essences here at play because they're removing the speedsters from everything, the whole manipulation of the Speed Force. But if that's the case, if when Wally uses the Speed Force or any of the other Flashes use it, it destroys things, then how is Jay able to kind of manipulate it to, you know, to kind of bend it to his will with no issues. So there's something more afoot here. But yeah, really solid. I'm going to keep going. I know it'd be, you know, no one else is reading it but me. So, but I've read through much worse Flash before and hung on. So at least this is interesting with the sci-fi plots. So with that, because the art's a little bit down, I'll give this a 6.5.